Welcome, and be at ease, for tonight's story is the complete story of Hanuman, the son of the wind, told slowly from its quiet beginning on a forest mountain to its long and starlit end. There is nothing to follow closely. The story will carry itself, and it will wait for you however many times you drift away and return. If these stories help you rest, subscribing tells me to make more of them. And now, as one telling has it, the story begins in the time before the story itself, when the world was younger and the nights were very deep. In the time before time, far to the south of the world, there stood a mountain robed in forest from its feet to its shoulders. And the forest was old, older than the naming of things. Great trees rose there, cedar and sal and wide-crowned banyan, and their roots went down through the dark earth like slow rivers going home, while their branches held up a green roof through which the daylight fell gently onto moss that had never known a hurried footstep. When evening came, mist gathered along the slopes like gray wool, and the whole mountain seemed to breathe out once, deeply, and grow still. The mountain kept its own time. Streams came down from the high snows, unwinding through fern and stone, and they were in no hurry, for they had been flowing since before anyone could remember, and they would be flowing long after. They gathered in pools the color of dusk, where herons stood thinking their long thoughts, and wherever they went they carried the same soft sound, the sound of water agreeing with itself. At night the only voices were the water, the crickets, and the wind turning over the leaves one by one, as though reading an old and well-loved book. It was a place made for rest. Among those trees lived the Vanara, the forest-dwelling folk, who belonged to the forest as the deer and the doves belonged to it, and yet were more, for they built and sang and remembered. Their homes were woven high in the branches, platforms of bough and vine, where small oil lamps glowed at nightfall like low, warm stars, and their paths ran along limbs as broad as roads, worn smooth by generations of unhurried feet. They gathered fruit in the cool of the morning, and honey in the cool of the evening, and between the two they were content to sit in the shade and watch the light move. Theirs was a gentle kingdom, and it asked nothing of the world beyond. And among them, in those years, lived Anjana, his mother, once of the bright sky, who kept her long vow, though the child of this story was not yet born, and she did not yet know his name. The story tells us that she had once danced in the courts of the sky, where the light is always the light of early morning, and that she had come down to live for a while beneath the leaves of the world. She carried her memory of the sky quietly, the way one carries a lamp through a sleeping house. And she was not sorrowful, for she knew, as one knows things in dreams, that her years beneath the trees would end in joy. So she waited, and her waiting was calm. Her vow was a vow of tapas, that long, patient austerity by which a still heart makes itself into a doorway. And she kept it as the mountain kept its seasons, without complaint and without haste. Each day she rose in the blue hour before dawn and went down to the stream. And there she sat upon a flat stone, with her hands folded, and her breathing slow. And she prayed not with many words, but with stillness. The birds grew so used to her that they nested in the branches above her head, and the deer drank beside her without fear. And the moss crept close about her stone, as though to keep her warm. Season folded into season, and still she sat, and the mountain held her gently, and her patience became a kind of light. Now in that age, as in this one, there moved through the world Vayu, the wind that moves through all living things. He was in the breath of the sleeping and the waking alike, in the slow push of clouds across the face of the moon, and in the small sigh of embers settling on a hearth at midnight. Nothing that lived was far from him, and so it was that, passing over the southern mountain on his quiet rounds, he came to know the still figure by the stream, and the steady flame of her long waiting. And the wind, who hurries for no one, began to linger there. The old tellings say that far away, in a kingdom of rivers, a king was making offerings at a sacred fire, praying for children, and that a portion of the blessed sweetness of that offering was lifted into the air and carried out over the hills. Vayu received it as it drifted, and he bore it gently over forests and sleeping villages and rivers shining under the moon. And he set it down softly into the folded hands of Anjana as she prayed beside the stream. She understood, and she ate, and the blessing settled within her like a lamp being carried into a quiet room, and with it came the grace of the wind himself. From that hour her waiting was over, though the mountain looked no different, and the stream went on with its one soft song. And so it was that in the fullness of time a child was born, high on the forest mountain, in the season when the nights are longest, and he was bright as morning and restless as breeze. His first cry was not loud. It was like wind moving through summer grass, and the trees around the birthing house stirred and bowed. They called him the child of Anjana, and they called him also the son of the wind. For Vayu claimed the boy as his own, and promised to be near him always, as near as breath. The forest folk came with fruit and honey and soft woven cloth, and the lamps burned late among the branches that night, warm and small, beneath the enormous stars. Kesari, the Vanara chief, lord of the forest mountain, was the husband of Anjana and the father of her house, and he was strong in the way that old trees are strong, which is a strength that shelters rather than strikes. He looked upon the child for a long while without speaking, and then he laughed low in his chest, softly, the way thunder sounds when it is many valleys away and means no harm. Their home stood among the highest trees, floored with smooth wood and roofed with woven leaves, and there they hung a cradle of vine and soft grasses, and the wind himself came each evening to rock it, slowly, slowly, with the gentlest of his hands. The little house swayed like a boat on calm water. Even in those first days, the child was restless, and his small hands were forever reaching for whatever moved, for the swaying lamp flame, for the turning leaves, for the drifting shine of the moon between the branches. But the forest was older than his restlessness, and larger than his reaching, and it held him the way night holds everything, easily, without effort, without end. When he stirred, the stream sang a little louder. When he fretted, the wind came through the leaves and breathed with him until his breathing slowed. And each night, however bright his day had been, sleep found him, for sleep always found its way up the mountain. So the mountain turned through its evenings, and the lamps of the Vanara went out one by one among the branches, like stars giving way to deeper stars. And the mist came up from the valleys, and the streams talked softly to the stones all night long. High in the swaying house Anjana slept, and Kesari slept, and between them, in his cradle of vine, the small bright child slept too, rocked by the wind that moves through all living things. Above the crown of the forest, the stars wheeled slowly, keeping their old, unhurried watch. The forest slept beneath them, and the child slept, and all was well on the mountain, and all was still. The son of the wind, the restless child of Anjana, his mother, once of the bright sky, had been born high on the southern mountain among the Vanara, the forest-dwelling folk, and from his first days his small hands had reached for everything that moved. He reached for the lamp flame, and the turning leaves, and the drifting shine of the moon, and the forest, older than his reaching, held him gently through every night. And so it was that the mountain kept him, and the stream sang him to sleep, and the wind that moves through all living things rocked his cradle of vine, evening after evening, while the stars kept their old unhurried watch above the crown of the trees. Now the story tells us that one morning, in the first gray hour before the birds had wakened, the child stirred in his cradle and found that he was hungry. It was a small hunger, the plain and honest hunger of a child new to the world, and he lay for a while, blinking up through the branches, waiting for it to be answered. And as he waited, the darkness thinned, and the east grew pale, and then pale gold, and then, slowly, over the far shoulder of the hills, the sun came up. It rose like a ripe golden fruit hung low in the sky, round and warm and close, its light spilling soft across the tops of the trees. And to the child, who knew nothing yet of distances or of the great shape of the world, it seemed the simplest thing imaginable, that here at last was something good to eat, hanging there for the taking, waiting only for a small hand to reach it. And the child, being the son of the wind, did not doubt for a moment that he could reach it. He did not think, as older creatures think, of how far a thing might be, or whether it might be too high. He only saw the warm golden fruit low in the morning, and he wanted it. And so, with the whole trusting certainty of a child who has never yet been told that a thing cannot be done, he gathered himself and he leapt. What happened then, the story tells slowly, for it was a wonder, and wonders are best told slowly. The child rose. He rose the way a seed of the silk cotton tree rises when the breeze lifts it, easily and without weight, and the branches of his home fell away beneath him, and then the whole crown of the forest fell away, spreading out wider and greener and softer the higher he went. The mountain that had held him grew small below, a gentle green shoulder in the dawn, and the streams became silver threads, and the mist that lay in the valleys became a still white sea, and all of it turned quiet and dreamlike and far, the way the waking world turns far when sleep begins to carry us up out of it. Higher he drifted, and higher, through air that grew cool and clean, and the clouds came about him like drifting wool, slow and shining, parting softly as he passed. And still above him hung the warm gold of the sun, no nearer than before, and yet no less inviting, and the child reached toward it with both small hands and climbed the empty air as though it were a familiar tree. Far away, in the high halls above the clouds, Indra, the king of the bright gods, rider of the white elephant, looked out across the morning and saw the small climbing shape rising steadily toward the sun. And Indra, whose care it was to keep the great wheeling order of the heavens turning as it should, watched the child ascend, and he understood that the round of day and night must not be troubled, that the sun must keep its course unreached. And so, gravely, and with no anger in it, only the calm keeping of an ancient duty, he lifted the Vajra, the thunderbolt, the bright weapon that guards the order of the sky, and he let it fly. It came to the child gently, as such things come in dreams. It touched him once, a single soft moment, upon the jaw, and at that touch the reaching ceased, and the small hands loosened, and the climbing turned to falling. But the falling was slow. It was the slow, unhurried falling of a leaf that lets go of its branch in autumn and takes the whole long afternoon to reach the ground, turning as it goes. Down through the shining clouds the child drifted, cradled by the air, past the still white sea of the mist, down toward the gentle green shoulder of the mountain that had held him from his first night. And he came to rest at last, as softly as a bird settling, there among the roots and the fallen leaves, quiet and unhurt. And from that day the small mark the thunderbolt had left upon his jaw stayed with him. For Hanu is the old word for the jaw. And so it was that ever after the child of Anjana was called Hanuman, and the name was a name of wonder and not of hurt. But Vayu, the wind that moves through all living things, had seen the touch of the Vajra upon his child, and grief came upon him. Softly he gathered up the fallen one, gathered him close as the evening breeze gathers the scent of a garden. And then, sorrowing, the wind withdrew himself from the world. He drew back his breath out of every valley and every high place, and where he had always moved, now there was stillness. The leaves upon the trees hung down and did not stir. The smoke of the evening lamps rose up straight and thin and unbroken into a sky that would not move it. The tall grasses stood without swaying, and the rivers of air that had always run through the forest fell silent. And over everything that breathes there settled a great held hush, as when the whole world pauses between one breath and the next, and waits. And the bright ones, the gods of the high heaven, felt that stillness, and they understood its cause, and they came. they came down over the mountain slowly and all together, gathering the way a constellation gathers in the deep of the night, one gentle light and then another, and the whole quiet company of them. Brahma, the grandfather of worlds, came foremost among them, and Indra came, no longer with the thunderbolt, but with kindness in his hands. And all the bright ones stood about the resting child. And the grandfather of worlds bent low and woke him, touching him softly, and the child opened his eyes. And then, one by one, the bright ones laid their blessings upon him, and the blessings fell over him like garlands laid gently around the neck of one who is loved. They gave him that fire would never burn him. They gave him that water would always carry him and never pull him down. They gave him that weariness would forget his name, and that no weapon in any hand would ever master him. And, gentlest of all, they gave him that his own passing would wait, always and forever, upon his own choosing, and would never come to him unasked. And when the last blessing had been spoken, and the child lay wrapped in the good will of the bright ones, then the grief of Vayu was comforted, and the wind returned to the world. Softly it came back into the valleys and the high places, and the leaves stirred and turned again upon the branches, and the smoke of the lamps bent and drifted as it had always done, and every living thing upon the mountain breathed and breathed again, and the son of the wind was carried home. And so it was that Hanuman came to rest in the arms of Anjana, his mother, once of the bright sky, with the small soft mark upon his jaw, and the blessings of the bright ones folded quietly about him. The evening drew down over the southern mountain, and the wind moved gentle in the leaves, and the streams took up again their old low talking to the stones. Anjana held him, and the forest held them both, and above the swaying trees the stars came out one by one to keep their patient watch. The child slept, and the mountain was at peace, and all was still. Very slow, soft, low, and even, with unhurried pauses at the end of every sentence. Keep the energy calm and soothing throughout. The child slept, and the mountain kept him, and the blessings of the bright ones lay folded quietly about the little sleeper, like the many soft layers of a well-made bed. So it had been on the night of his naming, and so it remained through the seasons that followed. For the gods had garlanded the son of the wind with gifts past counting, that fire would not burn him, and water would carry him, and no weapon would ever master him, and above all these, that his own death would wait forever upon his own choosing. and with such a garland about him, the child of Anjana began to grow. He grew as the young of the forest grow, swiftly and gladly, and his strength grew with him, though none who watched him play could have guessed the true measure of it. For the story tells us that there was no idleness in him, and no stillness that lasted long. And he went about the quiet places of the mountain with a lightness in his limbs and a brightness in his eyes, forever reaching for the next high branch, forever curious about the next turn of the path. And the forest-dwelling folk, the Vanara, among whom he was born, watched him go and shook their heads and smiled, for they had never known a little one so full of gentle motion. Now upon that mountain there were hermitages tucked among the trees, small clearings of packed earth and woven leaf, where the forest sages kept their long devotions, the rishis at their patient prayers. And it was among these quiet dwellings that the young one loved most to play. And his play was mischief, but it was the fond and harmless mischief of a child who means no unkindness and does no true harm. A sage would set down his water pot beside the stream and turn to his prayers, and when he looked again, the pot would be resting in the high fork of a tree, full still and spilling not a drop, with the child of the wind peering down through the leaves. A garland left to dry upon a stone would be found looped instead about a branch. A row of staffs leaned tidily against a hut would be gently rearranged, and the ripe fruit that hung waiting for the morning would come down early in a soft green rain, shaken loose by small, quick hands. And the forest sages, who loved the boy even as they smiled at his tricks, bore all of this with patience, for they saw what lay beneath it. They saw a strength in him so vast that he himself did not know its edges, a power that could uproot the tree it climbed or scatter the stones of the stream. And they saw that he carried this greatness the way a child carries a lit lamp through a crowded room, meaning no harm and yet needing to be guided. And so, out of their love and not their anger, they gave to him a gentle gift that wore the shape of a curse. It was laid upon him softly, the way a warm blanket is drawn up over a sleeper on a cool night, the way a spoon of sweet medicine is given to a child who does not know he needs it. The sages spoke together in their quiet voices and decreed that Hanuman would forget the vastness of his own strength, that he would carry it lightly and unknowing, folded away out of sight, until the far-off day when another had true need of it, and spoke to remind him of who he was. And in that hour, and not before, the whole of his power would return to him. But until then, he would go gently through the world, unburdened by the knowledge of what he could do. And it was a kindness, that forgetting. For with it a great calm came down upon the young one, softer than any he had known, and the restless reaching in his limbs grew quiet and content, and the mischief eased from him like a small fever passing in the night. He no longer troubled the water pots of the sages, nor shook the fruit before its time, and the hermitages returned to their long peace, and a stillness settled over the whole of the mountain that had not been there before. The rishis looked upon him and were glad, for they had given him nothing but the gift of a quiet heart. And so the young one grew, humble and unaware, a child who did not know his own greatness, and was the gentler for not knowing. And in those growing years he came to learn, for a bright mind that is emptied of its restlessness turns naturally toward wisdom. The story tells us that he sought out a teacher unlike any other, and that his teacher was Surya, the sun, the tireless teacher who crosses the sky each day and looks down upon all the world below. And the boy went to him and asked to be taught. It was no small thing to learn from such a master, for the sun does not pause in his going, but moves ever onward from the eastern rim of the world to the western, and never once in all the ages has he stopped to rest. Yet the child of the wind kept pace beneath him, traveling as the sun traveled, his face turned always upward to receive the lesson. And so day after patient day he learned. He learned grammar, the shape and order of words. He learned the old scriptures that hold the wisdom of the ages. He learned the courtesies of speech, how to address the great and the humble alike, how to listen and how to answer. And the tireless teacher, looking down upon so faithful a pupil, gave freely of all he knew. And when his learning was done, the young one carried his knowledge as lightly as he carried his forgotten strength, gently and without pride, and he went out into the world to make his way. And in time his way brought him into the service of Sugriva, the Vanara king in exile, who dwelt far from the throne that had once been his, upon a quiet slope called Rishyamukha, the green hill of refuge. There Sugriva lived apart from his lost kingdom, sheltered and waiting, and there Hanuman came to stand beside him. And he became to the exiled king a steady counselor and a gentle companion, the calm and faithful voice at his side through all the long, uncertain days. Where Sugriva grew troubled, the son of the wind was patient. Where the king remembered his sorrows, his companion turned him softly toward hope. And there was between them a trust as deep and unhurried as the roots of the old trees upon the hill. And so the two of them kept the green hill of refuge together, the king and the one who did not yet know his own greatness, and the years passed over them softly, season folding into season. And it was a long waiting, that time upon Rishyamukha. But it was a gentle one, and it asked nothing of them but patience. The hill waited, holding its quiet forests to itself, and Sugriva waited, keeping the memory of his throne, and Hanuman waited beside him, steady and content, not yet knowing for what the waiting was, nor for whom, nor how near the day had come. And in the evenings the small lamps were lit among the leaves of the hill, warm points of light scattered through the darkening green. And the cool air came down from the heights and moved gently among the huts, and the first stars showed themselves above the swaying trees. The green hill of refuge lay quiet in the dusk, and the long waiting rested easy under the early stars, and all upon Rishyamukha was still. Very slow, soft, low, and even, with unhurried pauses at the end of every sentence. Keep the energy calm and soothing throughout. Read only the provided text. Do not add or improvise any extra words. The story tells us that upon Rishyamukha, the green hill of refuge, the long waiting had grown soft as worn cloth, and Hanuman, the son of the wind, kept his watch there as the steady counselor of Sugriva, the Vanara king in exile, through seasons that came and went like slow water. They had lived upon that hill through many gentle years, not yet knowing for what they waited, and the not knowing had ceased to trouble them, and the hill itself seemed to hold them the way a hand holds a resting bird. In the dusk, the lamps stood among the leaves as they always had, small and golden and unhurried, and the early stars came out one by one above the trees. And so it was that the waiting rested easy, and the child of Anjana looked out over the forest below with a quiet heart, asking nothing of the coming day. And it was on such a day, in the mild light that falls between morning and noon, that two travelers came walking through the forest at the foot of the hill, and the story lingers on them, for they were unlike any who had passed that way. They were tall and straight as young trees, and their eyes were bright with a light that was neither anger nor fear, and each of them carried a great bow upon his shoulder, unstrung and quiet, as a farmer carries a tool he has long since made his own. About them both there hung a sorrow, gentle and deep, like a traveling cloak worn against the evening cold. And they walked without haste and without complaint, as men walk who have carried grief so long that it has become a companion rather than a burden. They moved among the old trees, and the leaves let the light down softly upon them, and they seemed at once mighty and weary, and altogether without malice. From the heights of the hill Sugriva watched them come, and the story tells us that his heart grew uneasy, for he had lived long in exile, and had learned to be watchful of strangers who bore weapons through the wood. He remembered the old quarrel that had set him apart from his own kin, and he feared, as a hunted man will fear, that these two bright strangers had been sent into the forest to seek him out and undo him. And so he turned to the son of the wind, whom he trusted above all others, and he asked him gently to go down among the trees and learn the hearts of these travelers, and to bring back word of what they truly were. Hanuman heard his king with patience, and he laid aside his own shape of power, and he took upon himself the humble seeming of a wandering mendicant, plain of robe and mild of manner, one who might meet any traveler upon any road, and give him no cause for alarm. So the child of Anjana came down the green slope and into the dappled shade, and he stepped onto the forest path before the two strangers with his hands folded and his voice low, and he greeted them. And the story dwells here, for the words he spoke were so gracious and so well ordered, so gentle in their courtesy and so true in their measure, that they fell upon the ear like water finding its level. He spoke of the beauty of the wood and the long road they seemed to have traveled, and he asked after their welfare with such fitting reverence that the elder of the two travelers marveled to hear him. And that elder traveler turned to his companion and said softly that here was no common wanderer, for only one who was deeply and truly learned, one schooled in the oldest and finest speech, could shape words so faultless and so kind. And in the saying of it there was wonder, and there was warmth, and the path between them grew easy. And in that same moment, as their voices met upon the quiet path, Hanuman knew them, and the knowing settled into him like dusk settling over a valley. For the elder was Rama, the exiled prince of Ayodhya, who had left his father's city and its comforts to keep a solemn word. And beside him stood Lakshmana, his brother and his shadow, who had followed him into the forest and would not be parted from him, though the whole world lay between them and home. And the story tells us why the sorrow hung about them like a cloak. For they wandered the wide forest in search of Sita, the lost queen, daughter of the earth, who had been the joy of Rama's heart, and who had been taken from them and carried far away. They sought her through the trackless green, patient and unwearied, and their grief was a quiet grief, born with such gentleness that it moved the son of the wind more deeply than any loud lament could have done. Then the child of Anjana put away all fear on his king's behalf, for he had looked into these two hearts and found nothing there but sorrow and steadfastness and a great and open goodness. And he took the two brothers up, one upon each shoulder, as easily as the wind lifts two leaves from the forest floor, and he bore them up the green slope of Rishyamukha to the place where Sugriva waited among the lamps and the leaves. And there, beside a small fire that burned low and clear in the gathering evening, an alliance was sworn between Rama and the Vanara king in exile, a plain and tender promise that each would help the other in his sorrow, that the one would aid in the seeking of the lost queen, and the other in the mending of an old and grievous wound. They spoke their vows across the little flame, and the smoke rose thin and fragrant into the dusk, and two lonely burdens became one shared road. And the story tells us, at a gentle distance, as one speaks of a storm that passed over the hills long ago and troubles no one now, that in the fullness of time, the old grief between Sugriva and his brother came at last to its quiet end. For there had been a long estrangement between the Vanara king and Vali, his brother, mightiest of the Vanaras, a bitterness grown out of misunderstanding in years gone by. And that bitterness was resolved, and the sorrow of it was laid down. The lost throne returned to Sugriva, and the Vanara kingdom that had been divided and uneasy grew quiet and whole again, as a river grows smooth once more when the flood has passed and the waters find their old and peaceful course. But the story tells us that the deepest thing that happened upon that day happened within Hanuman himself, in the still place beneath all his strength. And it happened as he bore the two brothers upon his shoulders up the hill. For as he carried them, and as he looked upon the face of Rama, the exiled prince of Ayodhya, the son of the wind felt his whole heart settle and turn, once and for all and forever, toward the one he had chosen to serve. It was not a fever, nor a sudden dazzlement, nor a fire that leaps and quickly falls, but something slower and far more lasting, a homecoming of the heart, as when a wanderer who has walked many roads in the dark steps at last across his own threshold and knows that he has come to the place he was always meant to be. And from that hour his life had a center, and all his years and all his strength gathered around it. And he was, before all else that he was, the servant of Rama. And so it was that the small oath fire burned lower still, sinking gently to embers that glowed like the last light of the day. And the forest path below lay quiet again, empty now and cool beneath the trees. The two princes rested at last upon the hill, their long grief eased a little by the promise of the road ahead. And the lamps stood golden among the leaves as they had always stood. And the child of Anjana kept his watch over them, content beyond the telling of it, his heart come home beneath the early and unhurried stars. You will remember how, beside a small fire upon the green hill, an alliance had been sworn, and how the Vanara folk had promised to help the exiled prince seek Sita, the lost queen, daughter of the earth, who had been taken from him and carried far away. And the story tells us that in the fullness of time that promise came due, as all true promises do, gently and without hurry, and the day arrived when the search was to begin in earnest. And so the Vanara hosts gathered upon the hill in the soft light of the morning, and they were given their charge, and they went out into the wide world to look for the one who was lost. Very slow, soft, low, and even, with unhurried pauses at the end of every sentence. Keep the energy calm and soothing throughout. Read only the provided text. Do not add or improvise any extra words. They were sent to the 4 quarters of the world, that no corner of the earth might go unsearched. One band turned toward the north, where the great snows lie, and one toward the east, where the sun comes up out of the sea, and one toward the west, where it goes down again into the water. And one band, the band that this story follows, turned toward the south. They parted from one another with quiet words, and went their separate ways, fanning out across the face of the earth like the fingers of an opening hand. And the hill that had held them so long grew still behind them, and the seeking began. With the southern band there went 3, whom the story loves to name. There was Angada, the young prince of the Vanaras, brave and open-hearted, who bore his hopes lightly upon his face. There was Jambavan, the ancient bear, oldest of the council, whose memory reached back through so many ages that little in the world could surprise him, and whose slow words were weighed like old and precious things. And there was Hanuman, the son of the wind, who walked among them quiet and steady, his heart turned always toward Rama, the prince he had chosen to serve, carrying his own forgotten greatness lightly, as he had carried it all his life. Very slow, soft, low, and even, with unhurried pauses at the end of every sentence. Keep the energy calm and soothing throughout. Read only the provided text. Do not add or improvise any extra words. Their road was long, and the story tells it slowly, for it was a road of patience more than of wonder. They crossed low hills furred with dry grass, and they followed the beds of rivers that had gone to sand and stone in the dry season. And they passed through a great dark cavern in the earth where no daylight came, walking a long while by touch and by trust, before they found the far mouth of it and stepped out again into the air. A month and more they searched in this way, and another month after, looking under every ledge and into every shaded valley, asking the birds and the wandering deer for word of the lost queen, and finding none. And a weariness grew in them, gentle but deep, the weariness of those who have looked long and found nothing. And then, at the last, the land itself came to its end. For they climbed a final rise of pale stone, and there before them lay the ocean, vast and silver dark beneath the wide sky, stretching on and on to a horizon that had no farther shore, moving always and going nowhere, older than the mountains and wider than thought. And the band stood upon the height and looked at it, and their hearts grew quiet within them, for they understood that here the earth they had been given to search was finished, and that they had not found her, and that beyond this water they could not go. And one by one they came down to the shore, and sat upon the sand at the very edge of the sea, like tired pilgrims come at last to the end of a long road. And they said little, and the waves came in and drew back, in and back, and the day wore on toward its close. Now it was there, in that low and quiet hour, that the story brings them a gift they did not look for. For upon a crag above the shore there dwelt Sampati, the aged vulture, brother of Jatayu, a bird so old that he had watched the sea from that same crag for longer than any living thing could remember. And hearing the Vanaras below him speaking together in their sorrow, and hearing among their words the name of Sita, and the name too of his own brother Jatayu, who long ago had given his life in the gentlest and bravest of causes, trying to stay the one who bore the queen away, the old bird was moved, and he lifted his ancient head, and he called down to them to take heart. For his eyes, though he was old, could see farther than the eyes of any other creature. Across leagues of water no walker could ever cross. And he told them what his far sight had long known, that the lost queen was not lost to the world at all, but was held across the sea, in Lanka, the island city, in a grove of flowering trees, sorrowing but living, waiting to be found. And hope came back into the band like a lamp carried into a dark room, and the shadows drew away to the corners, and they rose to their feet. But the gladness, when it came, brought its own quiet trouble close behind it. For the sea before them was 100 leagues in width and more, farther than any of them had ever leapt or ever dreamed of leaping. And the knowing of where she was did not of itself carry them one step nearer to her. And so, upon the shore, the Vanaras began to measure themselves against the water, each speaking softly of how far he believed he might spring. And one said one distance, and another a little more, and the young Prince Angada more still. And yet, when all was said, the far side lay always beyond the reach any of them could promise, and their new hope grew hushed again, folding its wings like a bird settling for the night. And a silence came over them there at the edge of the world. Then Jambavan, the ancient bear, oldest of the council, turned from the others, and he looked at the one who had sat apart and silent through all of this, there at the very lip of the water, asking nothing and offering nothing, as was his humble way. He looked at Hanuman, the son of the wind, and the old bear's eyes were kind and knowing, for his long memory held what the son of the wind himself had forgotten. And he came to him, and he spoke to him slowly and with great love, as one speaks who is waking a sleeper he does not wish to startle. He told him of his birth upon the mountain, and of the wind that was his father, and of the day he had leapt as a child toward the sun. He told him of the blessings the bright ones had folded about him, and of the strength, vast beyond all measure, that he had carried hidden within himself through all his gentle years. And he named that strength aloud, there beside the sounding sea, and bade him remember it. And as the ancient bear spoke on, quietly and surely, the thing that had slept so long in the son of the wind began to stir. It did not come as a fire comes, all at once and leaping. It came as the tide comes, when the moon rises unseen beyond the hills, and the sea begins, without sound and without haste, to remember the moon and to answer it. So the great strength rose in Hanuman, slowly from some deep and patient place within him, filling him as the tide fills a still bay in the dark, and he felt himself grow, and the weariness of the long road fell away from him like water running off a stone. And he understood at last, and without fear, who he was. And so it was that the night came down soft over the southern shore, and the moon laid a long pale road upon the dark and moving water, and the band that had been so weary was quiet now, with a new and steady hope. And Hanuman stood at the very edge of the sea, taller than he had been, the tide of his own strength rising gently within him, and going on rising. And he looked out across the water, toward the island city he could not yet see. The waves came in and drew back, in and back, unhurried as breathing. The stars gathered above the sea, and the shore lay still beneath them, and all things waited at rest for the morning. You will remember how, upon the southern shore, the ancient bear had reminded the son of the wind of his own forgotten strength, and how that strength had risen in him slowly, like a tide that has remembered the moon. And the story tells us that when the morning came, Hanuman, the son of the wind, went up onto the mountain Mahendra that looks out over the sea to make ready for the crossing. And the Vanara band came with him and stood a little apart to watch, hushed and hopeful in the early light. And there upon the height he began to grow, and the growing was told slowly, for it was a thing to marvel at. He grew as a cloud grows in a summer sky, gathering and spreading, taller and broader and grander, until he stood over the forest like a second mountain risen beside the first, and the trees below him were as moss, and the wide sea before him seemed a thing that a great heart might cross after all. He gathered himself upon the mountain, and he pressed down with all his weight to spring, and the mountain groaned softly and sank beneath him, its streams shaken loose to fall in bright ribbons, and its stones pressed down into the earth. And then he leapt, and the leap carried him up and out over the water, and the mountain behind him settled slowly back into its long rest. And then there was only the sea, and the crossing was the heart of that day. Beneath him the ocean slid by, wide and silver dark and endless, wrinkling and smoothing and wrinkling again. And the wind he was born to roared soft and steady in his ears, and his shadow ran along the face of the water far below, like a cloud's shadow running over a field. On he went, and the waves passed under him, one after another, rising and falling, in the long, slow breathing of the sea that has no beginning and no end. And the rhythm of it was a lulling thing, wave upon wave upon wave. And the far shore did not come, and did not come, and still he flew, easy and unhurried, over the moving water and under the moving sky. Now the story tells us that as he flew, the sea itself wished to show him a kindness. For deep beneath the waves there lay Mainaka, the golden mountain hidden in the sea, who in the old days had been a friend to the wind, and who now, seeing the son of the wind pass overhead upon so long a journey, rose up quietly through the water to offer him a place to rest. Up came the golden peak, breaking the surface, all shining and streaming, and it stood in his path and bade him alight upon it and take his ease a while before going on. And Hanuman, who was courteous even in the midst of great endeavors, would not pass by such kindness without honoring it. And yet he would not stop, for his heart was set upon his errand. And so he reached out as he flew, and laid one hand gently upon the golden summit, in thanks and in greeting. And he blessed the mountain for its goodness, and he passed on. And the golden mountain, honored and content, sank slowly back beneath the waves to its rest. And on he went, and on, over the wide water, and the sea set a second thing in his way, though this one came as a testing, and not as a kindness. For up out of the deep rose Surasa, the mother of serpents, ancient and vast, and she opened before him a mouth as wide as a cave, and she told him that none might pass that way except through her jaws, for so it had been ordained. And the son of the wind, who was as clever as he was strong, did not meet her testing with anger. Instead, he grew larger and larger still, that she might have to widen her great mouth to match him. And she widened it, and he grew again, and she widened it again. And then, all at once, he made himself small, small as a thumb, and darted in through her jaws and out once more, before she could close them, and stood again upon the air beyond her, whole and free. And Surasa, well pleased, for she had come only to prove his wit and his heart, gave him her blessing and sank away. And the testing was over, as gently as it had begun. And once more there was only the sea and the crossing, wave upon wave upon wave beneath him in the long light of the afternoon. And a third time the water stirred, for beneath the surface there dwelt a shadow-catcher, an old and hungry thing that seized upon the shadows of whatever passed above and drew them down. And a third time the water stirred, for beneath the surface there dwelt a shadow-catcher, an old and hungry thing that seized upon the shadows of whatever passed above and drew them down, and by the shadow the creature itself. and it laid hold now of the shadow of the son of the wind upon the water, and sought to drag him from the sky. But he understood the trick of it, and he did not struggle against the pull. He made himself small and slipped down into the very deep. And there in the dark water the thing was met, and quietly overcome, and troubled him no more. And he rose again into the air, and the sea closed over and smoothed itself, and was calm, as though nothing had happened at all. And he flew on toward the falling of the day. And at last, when the sun had gone low and red into the water at his back, and the first blue of the evening was gathering ahead of him, the far shore came. It came slowly out of the haze, and then more clearly, and he saw it, the island city, Lanka, rising from the sea upon its high green mountain, ringed with walls like pale cliffs, and crowned with towers of gold that caught the last of the light, tier upon tier of them, shining softly against the darkening sky. It was a fair and mighty place to look upon, quiet now in the hush before nightfall, and he came down out of the air onto the mountain slope above it, and the long crossing of the sea was behind him. And there, looking upon the great gate of the city, and the high walls, and the lamps that were beginning, one by one, to be lit within, the son of the wind grew thoughtful and wise, for he knew that a giant striding through the streets would wake the whole of Lanka, and undo his errand before it was begun, and that what was wanted now was not greatness, but smallness and quiet. And so he began to shrink, gently, drawing all his vastness back into himself, until he was no larger than a cat that walks the walls at dusk, small and grey and unremarkable, a shadow among the shadows. And in that humble shape, as the last light failed, and the lamps of the city bloomed golden one after another in the gathering dark, he slipped over the wall, and in through the great gate, unseen and unremarked, and went softly into the sleeping city to look for the one he had crossed the world to find. And behind him the sea lay wide and dark and calm, breathing its long, slow breath upon the shore as it had breathed since the beginning, wave upon wave upon wave, while the small, quiet form moved on through the golden streets of Lanka under the first of the stars. The lamps burned soft in the windows of the city. The night came down over the island and the water alike, and all was still. You will remember how the son of the wind, having crossed the wide sea, had made himself small as a cat that walks the walls at dusk, and had slipped unseen through the golden gate into the sleeping city of Lanka. And the story tells us that all through the long night he searched the island city for the one he had come to find, moving quiet and unremarked along its high walls and through its shadowed streets, and the searching was patient and slow. He went through the great houses of the city, where the lamps had burned low, and the sleepers lay at their rest. And he passed among the halls of gold and the courts of pale stone, looking gently upon each face, and finding none that was hers. He came upon the flying chariot, the great cloud-colored car that stood moored in its high place, like a moored cloud indeed, silent under the stars, and he passed it by. He searched the wide chambers and the quiet gardens and the walks between them, and still he did not find her. And a doubt began to trouble him, soft as a draught under a door, that perhaps she was not in this place at all. And he grew weary, and he sat a while in the dark to gather his heart. And then he rose and went on, for he had promised, and he was not one to leave a promise unkept. And so it was that he came at the last to a wall at the far northern edge of the city, and beyond that wall there lay a garden unlike the others, an old grove of flowering trees, the Grove of the Ashoka, which men have called the trees of no sorrow. He went over the wall and in among them, and the grove was cool and green and dim, hung with pale blossoms that glimmered faintly in the last of the moonlight, and quiet with a quiet deeper than the rest of the sleeping city. And there, beneath the greatest of the trees, he saw her at last, and his long searching was ended. She sat upon the bare ground, beneath the spreading branches, Sita, the lost queen, daughter of the earth, and she was thin with grief, and plainly clad, without ornament or ease, and about her at a little distance sat the rough guardians who had been set to watch her. Yet for all her sorrow she was not broken, and the story tells us that her grief was a still grief, borne quietly and without complaint, so that she seemed less a captive than a lamp that has been carried into a dark room and set down and left there, burning steadily on. And the son of the wind, looking down upon her from among the leaves, knew her beyond all doubting, and his heart was moved, and he kept himself hidden and still, and he waited and watched over her from the branches through the last of the night. And when the gray dawn came, the story tells of a visitor to the grove, and it tells of him briefly and at a distance, as one speaks of thunder muttering far off beyond the hills, that troubles the horizon and comes no nearer. For Ravana, the 10-crowned king of Lanka, came into the garden with his retinue about him, and he stood before the queen and spoke to her, offering her the wealth and the glory of his island city, if she would but forget the one she loved and turn to him, and letting fall beneath his soft words the shadow of a threat. But she would not hear him. She laid a single blade of grass upon the ground between them, as one lays down a small and final word, and she turned her face away. And she answered him only that her heart was given and would never be given again. And the 10-crowned king, thwarted and cold, gathered his retinue and withdrew, and his going was like the passing of a cloud off the face of the sun, and the grove was left quiet once more, and the queen alone beneath her tree. Now the son of the wind understood that he must let her know he had come, and yet he saw how she had been deceived and frightened in that place, and he feared that if he showed himself all at once, she might take him for another trick of her captors, and cry out in her alarm. And so he chose the gentlest way that could be found. Softly, from his place among the high branches, in a low and quiet voice, he began to tell a story. And the story he told was the story of Rama, the exiled prince she loved. From his birth in the far city, to his wandering in the forest, and his sorrow at her loss, and his long seeking after her. And she heard the beloved name come down to her out of the dark leaves overhead, and she lifted her face in wonder, for it was the sweetest sound that had reached her in all her captivity, hope itself speaking softly from above in the gray hour before the day. And then the son of the wind came down, small and humble, and showed himself to her, and told her who he was, and who had sent him, a servant and a messenger from the one she loved. And though at first she scarcely dared believe so great a gladness, he gave her a token that put all doubt to rest. For he brought out the ring of Rama, the prince he had chosen to serve, and laid it gently into her cupped hands. And she knew it at once, and she held it close, and the long night of her grief was eased at last, as a fever eases toward the morning. And they spoke together softly beneath the tree, and he told her that Rama was coming, that the sea would be crossed, and the city opened, and her sorrow ended, and that she had only to keep heart a little while longer. And she, believing him now, gave into his keeping a token of her own to carry back, her crest jewel, the Chudamani, that she had worn in her hair, that her beloved might see it, and know that his messenger had truly found her, and that she lived and waited still. And when all had been said that needed saying, and the small bright jewel was safely kept, the son of the wind made ready to depart, for the dawn was strengthening, and his errand in the grove was done. He gave her such words of comfort as a good and gentle heart could give, and he bowed to her as a servant bows, and she blessed him and bade him go swiftly and safely across the sea. And he drew back once more among the leaves, and she was left beneath her tree as he had found her, and yet not as he had found her, for now she knew that she was not forgotten, and that help was on its way, and the knowing lay warm within her like a small shielded flame. And so it was that the grove of the sorrowless trees grew still and quiet in the early light, and the pale blossoms stirred softly in the first breath of the morning. And the queen sat beneath the great tree with the ring held close against her heart. Her grief was not yet ended, but it was lighter than it had been, and a comfort had been left with her in that dark place, glowing steadily on like a lamp set behind a shade, giving its gentle light and not going out. The garden breathed its cool green quiet about her. The city beyond lay hushed in the dawn, and all was still. You will remember how, beneath the sorrowless trees, the son of the wind had given to the lost queen the ring of the one she loved, and had received from her the small crest jewel to carry home, and how he had left her lighter of heart than he had found her. And the story tells us that before he crossed the sea again, he wished to do one thing more. For he was not only a gentle messenger, but a faithful one. And he thought it good that the king of the island city should learn from his own lips that the one he held was not without friends in the wide world. And so the son of the wind let himself at last be seen. He did not flee when the guardians of the city came seeking the stranger in their midst. And though they wrapped him about with a great binding weapon, an ancient cord that no strength was meant to break, he allowed it and did not shake it off, for he saw that it would carry him where he now wished to go, into the very hall of the king, and he went where it took him as calmly as a guest goes in to supper. And the story tells us that this was his own choosing, and not a thing done to him against his will. For by the blessings folded about him, no weapon could truly master him, and he wore the binding lightly, as a traveler wears a borrowed cloak. They brought him into the great hall of Lanka, and it was a place of gold and shadow, vast and high and dim with fragrant smoke, hung with lamps and heavy with the grandeur of a mighty king. And there upon his high seat sat Ravana, the 10-crowned king of Lanka, with his court arrayed about him. And the Son of the Wind stood before that throne, unafraid, small amid all that greatness. And he gave the king the word he had been sent to give, speaking it plainly and without heat, that the queen he held was dearly loved and dearly sought, that a great and righteous prince was coming for her across the sea, and that all the sorrow to come might yet be turned aside, if the king would return her and make his peace. And the 10-crowned king heard him in cold anger, and would not bend, and in his wrath he would have done the messenger great harm. But there stood in that hall one who loved what was right, and he spoke against the anger of the king. For Vibhishana, the king's brother, who loved what was right, rose and counseled gently that a messenger must never slain, that to harm one sent to carry words was against all the ancient and honorable custom of kings, and that whatever was done, this at least must not be done. And the king, though he would not free his prisoner, nor heed his warning, heard his brother far enough that he stayed his hand from the worst, and he sought instead to send the messenger away in shame. And he ordered that the stranger's long tail be wrapped about with cloth and oil, and set alight, that he might be paraded so through the streets and driven out. And it was done, and the small flame was kindled. And yet the story tells us that the fire had no power to burn the Son of the Wind, for fire had been among the first of the gifts the Bright Ones gave him long ago upon the mountain, that it would never do him harm. So he bore the flame upon him, and felt no hurt from it. And when they led him out into the streets of the city, he gathered himself and slipped free of their hands. And he went up light and quick along the golden rooftops of Lanka, with the fire streaming behind him. And what happened then, the story tells softly and at a distance, the way one remembers a great blaze seen long ago from across a wide valley, when the heat cannot reach you and only the slow light remains. For the fire went out from him and passed through the proud city, moving along the golden roofs and the high towers like a slow bright tide coming in. And the grandeur that had been raised upon the labor of the world was given over, tower by tower, to the flames. And the pride of the island city was banked down gently into embers under the night. And no cry of it is dwelt upon here, and no sorrow made a show of. Only the old truth that what is built too high upon the taking of others does not, in the end, stand. And in all of that passing fire, there was one green place it did not touch. For the Son of the Wind held the flames away from the grove of the sorrowless trees, where the lost queen sat beneath her tree, and not a leaf of it was harmed. And she was kept safe within her garden, while the city glowed beyond its walls. And when his work was done, he went down at last to the sea's edge, and dipped the fire of his tail into the cool, dark water, and it went out with a soft sound, like a long-held breath let go, and the night drew quiet again over the island and the sea. Then, lighter of heart than he had come, the son of the wind grew great once more upon the shore, and he sprang up again into the air, and set his face toward home. And the crossing back was an easy and a gladsome thing, for his errand was accomplished, and the small jewel was safe against him, and the moon laid its long pale road upon the water before him, and the waves passed under him one after another in the old slow rhythm of the sea. On he went, and on, over the wide and breathing water, until the far northern shore rose up to meet him, and he came down among his own. And the Vanara band, who had waited so long upon that shore in hope and in fear, came running to him as he landed, and they gathered close about him under the stars, and they searched his face for the tidings he carried. And he did not keep them waiting, but gave them at once the words that ended all their dread, the words they had crossed the world to be able to speak, saying simply that he had seen her, that the lost queen was alive and faithful across the sea, and that now at last they knew where she was to be found. And a great gladness went through the band, quiet and deep, more like the easing of a long-held grief than any loud rejoicing. And they blessed the son of the wind, and their hearts were at rest. And so it was that the weary band lay down that night upon the pale sand of the northern shore, and slept, with the good news held warm among them like a small fire kept through the dark, or like the warmth beneath a blanket on a cold night, given and shared and enough. The sea breathed low upon the shore beside them, wave after wave after wave. The moon went down the sky, and the stars kept their patient watch above the sleeping camp. And the son of the wind lay among his friends, with his errand done, and his heart at peace. And all along the quiet shore, at last, all was well, and all was still. You will remember how the son of the wind had carried home across the sea the good news that the lost queen was found, and how the weary band had slept upon the northern shore with that gladness held warm among them. And the story tells us that from that night the long sorrow of the seeking gave way to the labor of the mending, and the great host gathered itself and came down at last to the edge of the sea, to build a road where no road had ever been. for the sea was wide, and the whole host must cross it. And so they built a bridge, the bridge of stones, the Setu, laying it out across the deep water, span by patient span. Stone after stone they brought and set upon the waves, and it is told that each stone was given a name as it was laid, and that the naming held the stones together and kept them from sinking, so that the causeway grew out across the sea like a slow road of moonlight laid upon the dark, reaching from the near shore toward the island city. And when it was finished, the great host went over it, rank upon rank, and came at last to the far side, and stood upon the shore of Lanka. And of the war that followed, the story here says little, and says it softly, and at a great distance, the way one watches a storm move along a far range of hills, seeing the slow flicker within the clouds, and hearing the thunder come muffled and late across the miles, while the valley where one stands lies quiet. The great hosts drew up against one another, and their banners moved over the field like slow rivers. And the days rose, and in time they cooled. And grief came and was born, and courage was spent and renewed, and the long matter of it went forward toward its ending as such things do. And it is enough for this telling to say that the right of it was heavy in the balance, and that the balance in the end came down where it should. But there was 1 hour in that far storm that the story does draw near to, for it is the hour that belonged to the son of the wind. For it came to pass that Lakshmana, his brother and his shadow, who had followed the prince into exile and would not be parted from him, was struck down upon the field and lay as one dead. And a great fear fell upon all who loved him. And Sushena, the healer of the Vanara host, was called. And he looked upon the fallen one, and said that there was yet a hope, but only one, that upon a certain mountain far away in the northern snows there grew a herb that restores life, the Sanjivani, glowing softly in the dark, and that if it could be brought and given before the coming of the dawn, the fallen brother might yet be raised. But the mountain was very far, and the night was short, and there was only one among them all who could hope to go so far and return in time. And so the son of the wind went. He rose into the night and turned his face to the north, and he crossed the whole dark span of the world beneath the stars, over the sleeping lands and the silver rivers and the folded ranges of the hills, on and on through the deep of the night, until he came at last to the high, cold mountain in the snows, where the healing herbs were said to grow. And he came down upon its slopes and looked for the one herb he had been sent to find. But the mountainside was covered over with 1,000 herbs, and many of them glowed faintly in the dark. And the story tells us that as he drew near, the glowing herbs, shy of being gathered, dimmed their small lights and hid themselves among the rest, so that he could not tell the one he needed from all its neighbors. And he stood upon the mountain in the failing night, and he did not waste the little time he had in doubt or in searching stem by stem. For he chose instead the way that only a great and simple love would choose. If he could not tell which herb was the herb of healing, then he would take them all, and let nothing be left behind that might save his friend. And so he set his arms about the whole of that mountain top, and he lifted it, root and stone and snow, and every glimmering herb upon it, up and away against the field of the stars. And he bore the mountain back across the world through the last of the darkness, a peak carried through the sky in the arms of the son of the wind. And he came down with it among the host upon the shore of the island city, just as the east was growing pale. And the healer took from its slopes the herb that restores life, and gave it. And the fallen brother breathed, and stirred, and opened his eyes, and rose up whole, as one who wakes gently from a deep sleep into the light of the morning. And when the healing was done, the son of the wind did a thing that tells us who he was. For he took up the mountain once more, and carried it back through the sky to the northern snows, and set it down again in the place from which he had lifted it, that even the mountain should suffer no lasting loss by his need. And in the fullness of time, the far storm of the war came to its close, and the sorrow of it passed, and the lost queen was freed from the grove of the sorrowless trees, and restored to the one who loved her, and the long exile was ended, and the road home lay open at last. And the story tells us of the returning, of how the prince and the queen and the faithful brother came home again to the city of Ayodhya, out of which they had gone so long before in sorrow. And the city met them with a river of small lamps set out to light their way, row upon row of gentle flames along the streets and the rooftops and the water, reflected and doubled in the dark river, until the whole of the night seemed strung with quiet stars. And there was a crowning, and a great and gentle gladness, and the years of grief were folded away and put behind them like a long night ended. And in the time of that gladness, the story tells one last small tale of the son of the wind. For a gift was offered him, a necklace of fair pearls. And he took it up and looked closely at each pearl in turn, one after another, turning them in his fingers as though searching for something within them. And when they asked him gently what he sought, He answered that he was looking to see whether the name of Rama, the one he had chosen to serve, was written within each pearl. For a thing that did not hold that name was of little worth to him. And when they wondered at this, it is told that he opened his own heart to them, and there within it they saw the prince and the queen enthroned together, held safe and whole in the deepest place of him, so that all could understand that he carried his beloved not upon him, but within him always. And when at the last the son of the wind was offered any boon that he might name, any throne or treasure or ease that his great service had earned, he asked for none of these. He asked only this, that he might remain in the world, deathless, the Chiranjeevi, for as long as the story of Rama was told among living hearts, that wherever that story was spoken, he might be near to hear it, a servant still, listening from the quiet at the edge of the lamplight. And the boon was granted him, and so it is that he has never gone away. For wherever the old story is told, there the son of the wind is said to be near, humble and unseen, listening. And so he is near now, at the ending of this telling, as near as the wind in the leaves. And far away upon the southern mountain where he was born, the forest keeps its old and quiet watch as it has always kept it, the streams talking low to the stones, the mist rising soft into the trees, and the first gray light of the dawn coming up gentle over a still river, where a single bird calls once and is answered by the silence. The story has come round again to where it began. The mountain sleeps, and the forest sleeps, and all is well, and all is still.